This video covers completing Section 3A and B of the Wisconsin Telecommunications Annual Questionnaire. This section is fairly short, although what's happening is if take a look at the preview. Come on. It is a fairly long calculation. However, a lot of this stuff is information carried over from previous sections. So when you go back to Section 3A, you only have a couple of lines to enter data in. And these are primarily related to uncollectibles. So line 2 is the total amount of uncollectible revenue written off in prior years, but were collected during the calendar year in question. So we're talking the calendar year in this with this video, calendar year 2024. So these would be revenues that had been written off in 2022, for example, but then were later collected and booked as revenue in calendar year 2024. So in this case, for my all-purpose test utility, which is fictitious, I have entered a number. Next, the total uncollectibles written off during the calendar year covered by the AQ. Again, this is calendar year 2024 in my example. So 52,000 and change was written off as uncollectible in this year. Next, the portion of this which is not accessible. So, for example, this includes both my voice revenues and my broadband revenues. Broadband revenues are not accessible, so we split out that portion. And this system will calculate eventually the difference, and I'll use that as an offset against gross revenues for calendar year 2024. And finally, other revenues or offsets not addressed above. If you think there's something else that should be used as an offset against gross revenues, you can add it. Generally, we don't expect anything in this line, simply because most revenue streams that we can think of are either under accessible or non-accessible. So I've entered 0 here. If you enter something other than 0, you're going to be able to enter something in this box, and you'll need to enter something in these boxes to explain what revenues created the adjustment on line 6. Once you have entered the numbers and the numbers are correct, you can save and continue. If you're in the middle of checking something but you still have entered some, you can always save at any time. So save and continue will take us to section 3B. This is slightly different. This one covers just universal service. It's a slightly different calculation. In this case, the only thing that can be entered for section 3B is basically another other category. We do not expect that there will be any revenues here. If you do enter a non-zero number, here you will need to explain what generated that revenue. And that basically is the entirety of section 3. So save and continue. And again, if we preview it, it shows that there's actually more in section 3. Here's this is the calculation of remainder assessment, which does not include VoIP revenues. And so this has VoIP revenues removed, and then they're added back in for relay and trade practices assessment. And then here's the Universal Service Fund assessment, which uses just intrastate So there are certain revenues get added in here, and that comes out with the total. Again, there's always the FAQ if you want additional information on any of this. The FAQ starts out with general information in section 3, and then specific for each line that has enterable values, there's more information on what is here. I should point out that the system subtracts uncollectibles from your gross revenues, so don't enter a negative number. Enter a positive number, the amount of revenues that were uncollectible. And so there's section 3B, same information. If you have questions, you can contact me. My information is in the FAQ.